this is part 2 of making the slave Leia costume. I'm sorry it took me so long to get to it. I did part 1 about a year ago, and I've got a little intro here, and if you want to skip right to the tutorial, I will put timestamps below in the description, so you can skip right to it. But it's gonna talk a little bit about making the costume, why it took so long. I have made over 100 of these, and I think I kind of have to force myself to make one last one, and I did want to share how I did it. However, I made up the way I make this so long ago. I feel like there's probably better materials now, easier ways to make it. And when I started explaining how to make it, and when I started trying, I was like, wow, this is a really convoluted way of making things. I'm not sure if it's the best way or the easiest way, but it is just the way that I made it every time I made it. I first made this costume in 2001, I think, so it was a long time ago. But also, to make it, you're going to need certain materials. I was planning on, I'll put Amazon links below where you can get the materials, and I'm also going to put some in my Etsy shop, maybe do like a little package so you could get several of the materials at once if you do want to try making it this way. So these are the materials that you're going to need to make the skirt part. You're going to need a 3-inch wide elastic, because that forms, you're going to make something that looks like this. You will need, it's not completely necessary, but I do like using fray block to stop the edges from unraveling. You will need a certain kind of Velcro, sew-on Velcro, and sticky Velcro, industrial strength. It's helpful to have chalk to draw the outline, and you will need panels of like a burgundy wine red velvet, either crushed velvet or micro velvet. Both work good. The paint. All right, so this is a very old bottle of the paint. It used to say Tulip Metallics. The branding has changed, and now it says Tulip Puff Paint. It's not really puff paint, it's more of a dimensional paint, because you're going to use it to make the side panels that look like that. So these are the ones that go like on your hip right there. So those are all the materials that you're going to need so that you can make this. So to make the piece that's going to go around your waist, and this piece is going to be where you attach the gold plates. So the tutorial for these, I did this tutorial first. These are the finished gold plates, front and back, and they are going to be attached to a elastic piece that looks like this. So that's how it starts. To get to this part, you draw that on this. So for that, I use chalk and fold it in half, and with just about an inch at the top. Oops. Okay, fold it in half, mark your halfway mark. Then this, where you put this mark, is going to be the center of the front. So I measure off of this and I set it down, and then I make 2 little marks, and that's where I'm gonna draw out the pattern here. See, this is where I like, oh, it gets a little convoluted because you have to figure out how to draw the pattern to make it look like this. So I just freehand it, and I'll show you what it looks like. So anyway, you start drawing it, and it looks like that. And then to get it all perfectly even, you fold it in half to cut the sides. And you want to make sure the little side pieces are thick enough. I'm doing a not great job of this right now. It takes some practicing. So maybe practice on paper before you actually cut one of these out. So after cutting, oh, that's probably the worst one I've ever made. Anyway, so I guess that's why I've been stalling. I've been having a hard time trying to figure out how to explain how I make this piece. So you want, see, this is where this is going to attach. And then these are your sides, and you have a little black thing that goes around the side, and then you're gonna sew this like this. So once you figure out how to do this piece, you're going to paint these things just like you did this, and then it's going to end up looking like that. Get the focus on there. So I'm going to finish doing this one here and then continue on. So like I said, it starts like this, then you go to this, and then the next step is to paint this part. When I get to this point, I usually take the fray block and I put it all around all the edges. Just stop it from fraying as much, especially the edges on the little side pieces here, especially those pieces. You want to put fray block on those. So for this part, you're going to take your gold paint and you're going to do the exact same thing like you did on these. I'm gonna make this pattern here. I start by doing myself a little outline. You want it to be like a football shape. So draw yourself a little outline and then fill it in. And you fill it in and get it good and goopy. I suggest putting a piece of paper under it because it does tend to go over the edges. So get it good and goopy because that's how you get your texture. It is all super goopy. We're gonna give it the pokes, and that's how you give it that sort of hammered gold kind of texture. And once you do that, you're gonna leave this to dry totally before moving on to the next step. Okay, so I'm back and I am trying to continue this tutorial for all you 5 people who have asked for it. So that's why I am wearing a different shirt, probably different glasses, and trying to pick up where I left off because I sat it down and then another couple weeks went by and I was like, I really need to finish this thing. I think I stopped off where I was making the bottom piece. I was doing the paint, poking, and making this side. So this side has dried. It looks like this. There's actually several steps before we get to this point. I'm gonna show some close-ups of this real quick so you can see the difference. All right, so this is the first layer. Looks like that. This is what it looks like when it's done. So you can see it's chunkier and it has this outline. Okay, so if I were making this, I would be adding one more layer to this and then painting it gold. Forgot about that. So I use spray paint in a cup. I take spray paint, gold metallic spray paint, spray it in a cup, and then use a paintbrush and paint it on. Yes, you can totally use metallic paint. Just for some reason, the spray paint in a cup usually has like the best metallic look. I don't know, I've been doing it that way for years, and there's probably much better stuff available now. So after you do the spray paint in the cup and then paint this, you do the outline so that in the end, it looks like this. All right, the next thing you're gonna do is, I have not done this in so long, I can't remember now. Okay. All right, the next thing you're gonna do is sew your skirt together. So you're gonna overlap it and sew it to make the waistband. So my machine is set on a zigzag stitch, specifically C and 3. I am going to stitch this front and back with a zigzag stitch. So now you've got the belt base, and it goes like that. Ta-da! And that's what that looks like. So, is to take a big rectangle of fabric. Crushed velvet works good. This is micro velvet. It's actually my favorite one to use. It's usually a little more expensive, and you usually serge the ends to keep them from raveling. With crushed velvet, you don't have to do that. Next up, you're going to pin the panel to the front piece. So I always tuck the ends in. That way, when it hangs, the sides will roll in, and then you pin it on. And you're going to do this on the front and the back. However, I'm just going to be doing the front because I do not feel like making the entire thing. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're gonna flip that side in as well. All right, then take this and pin it in pleats. I usually do 3 pleats down the front, at least 3. Depends on how wide your front is. So we've got it like that, and I'm gonna pin it just. This is how it is pinned on. And then I do a stitch to hold this on. All right, so once you get that sewn across, it's starting to look like a skirt. And you can see it's got little pleats in it. Just a quick note, if you make a little mistake when you're cutting this and you cut this, just give it a little stitch. You can stitch that together. You don't have to start over. Okay, so your next step after sewing on the red skirt part is to sew the Velcro on. This is how your red plates are going to attach. And so you cut it to fit. Cut it to fit the front where it's not hanging over, so I'm going to cut it a little bit smaller, and then I am going to sew it on over that part. So it goes like that. Okay, so I cut it at an angle on the sides and then just pinned it on there. And now I'm going to sew all around the outside so it's nice and secure and flat. And I'm going to use a small straight stitch. So on my machine, the stitch I'm using is an A2. To get around the corners, leave your needle in, lift up your lever, swirl it around, lever back down. Make sure you don't sew the other side of your skirt. The Velcro is sewn on, and now you've got this. And again, you are going to do the back and the front. I just did the front. So at this point, you are ready to attach your gold plates. Okay, so I've always done the Velcro on the plates. That way you can take them off and you can wash the skirt if you need to. This is where you use the Velcro on the plates. Back plate, front plate. Let's see, this is the front. So take and sticky Velcro. And you're gonna cut it to fit. So we do kind of cut it at an angle. Right. So you can see how I cut it. And I'm gonna unpeel it and stick it. You want to stick it close to the top there, but not all the way at the top, so leave a little bit of room. Then you attach it to the skirt. All right, so this is our super sexy slave Leia model here, and you can see how the gold sides look on the hips, and this is the worst zoom ever. Okay, let's go back. So now we have the front plate, the Velcro, and it just sticks. And because the styrene piece that I used is flexible, it curves around your body. I don't know, I don't like those ones where they stick straight out. Oops, I put it on a little too low. See? You can see the black. No problem. This also makes it easier to pack when you can take off the plates. Okay, we put them up a little bit higher, push them on, and there you have it. That's what it looks like. And you do the same thing for the back. So now that I've got the front piece finished, it does actually look pretty cool. Now I remember why I made so many of these. I'm still not gonna finish the back. But I will have like pieces and parts for sale in the Etsy shop. I don't know if I'm going to get around to doing the top because this took me over a year to film, and the top is even more labor intensive. And the video didn't really get a ton of interest. If it like blew up and a whole bunch of people really wanted to know how to make the top, I would come back and make the top. But right now I'm not sure like a ton of people are interested in making this costume, especially the way that I made it, which is a completely made up way. But this is the bottom. I mean, yeah, this is the skirt. And I'll have links to stuff you can get to help you make this if you do want to try making it my way in the description. This tutorial is a little bit all over the place. Thanks for watching, and if you have questions, feel free to ask me. I know I kind of ran through some of that, so I'm happy to answer questions though for people who are interested in making the slave Leia costume. Thanks. Bye.